quite a bit when it comes to the piano, understanding how to just play with our one hand with 10 fingers to moving around the circle of fifths and the circle of fourths within our world of music, using that as a map. And now I'd like to talk a little bit more in depth about harmony. Now, all those times where I said I'm going to get a little bit heady, but not too heady, this is about the time where I'm going to get heady. Now, not to the point where it's going to be like super excruciating and you're just like, dude, please move on to something else. Not that far. But I do want to allow you to know, like, this is going to take a little bit of thinking. And if that's like totally like not your thing, I aim to explain it as efficiently as I possibly can. Now, we learned this in guitar where harmony is just using more than one note, right? When we're learning our scales, we have just one kind of melody. And I want you to think about it like that. A melody or a scale, right? Just one note, and then, or a series of notes. But when we play harmony, we're going to be playing at least more than one note or more. So want to keep that in mind. So in the case of C major, which we're already familiar with, I'd like to talk a little bit more in depth about harmony. Let's start with our major harmony. So when we're in the key of C, our harmony that we can be developing is going to be based off of our seconds, our thirds, our perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, seventh, octave, and so on. We'll stay there for now. And it would sound something like this. So that was our major second, our major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, and our octave. Now there are harmonies that we can play above the octave as well. And those are going to be a little bit different. We call them different numbers, but just know that they're higher versions of notes that we played previously. So in the case of notes above the octave, we have what is a ninth, we have 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. And as far as my instruction in music theory, that's as far as we go. I know that there's like some kind of question as to why not 14th. I don't know how to answer that question. This is based off of what I know. And I think that 13th is like a really cool number to go to. It's my wife's favorite number as well. But anyway, so if I were to play all of those one after the other, it would sound something like this. very cool. So that was our harmony of major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seven, my bad, octave, major ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. Now assume that all of these are majors. As far as I'm concerned, when it comes to like what I've learned in regard to harmony above the octave, it's not really talked about in major and like minor. It can be, obviously, but being that instead of major and minor, it would be like a sharp, or it would be like a flat. So instead of like saying a 9 being a major, which you still can, but like a 9 would be, if it was like dropped down, it would be like a flat 9, right? Instead of thinking about it as a minor 9, you could say minor 9, but sometimes it's written out like this, just so that you're aware. But if you were to say that to somebody that knew music, like they would understand and they would be like, all right, cool. But just know, at least when it comes to these kind of above the octave harmonies, that you're like, okay, that's a 9, that's a 10th, that's an 11th, that's a 12th, that's your 13th, cool. And then dependent on whether or not you're going to keep it natural or you're going to go sharp or flat, that's when you get into the discussion of like, you know, is it a minor or major? And also like if you're going into specific chords. But that's it for our harmony, our major harmony in the key of C. And remember that all of these things apply to different keys as well. We're just in the key of C because there are no sharps and flats. It just makes things less confusing. So now what I'd like to do, since we've discussed the major harmony, let's get into some minor harmony. And this is really, really cool. If we start to play from our major harmony as the standard, then we can start figuring out our minor harmony very easily, especially when you're looking at the keys. And why I like talking about this because we're looking at the keys is because you can see the distances between each note. You can see that with the guitar a little bit, and a lot of it, but this is like, for me, a little bit easier to just see. It's very white and black, if you will, and to see the distances between each note as well. I want you to start associating distances between notes as specific measurements for your pitches. It becomes very helpful, but anyway, slight digression. Let's get back to it. So, major second. If we flat that second note, we can get a minor second. Very spicy, I know. And as we move on to our major third harmony, if we flatten it, we get a minor third harmony. And if we go to our fourth, our perfect fourth, if we flatten it, we just get our third again. Maybe that's one reason why they call it perfect. But anyway, we can do something a little bit different to the fourth, though, is we can raise the fourth. Or, like we will discuss later, Lord willing, is we can augment the fourth. We can raise it up or sharp it. We get that sharp 4 sound, which, in this case, if we're thinking about perfect fifth, if we flat it, we get that minor 5, which is also a sharp 4. Depends on whether you're coming or you're going, or coming, going, whichever direction that makes sense for you. So we had our perfect fifth, made it a minor fifth. So now we can go up to our major sixth. And we can flat it as well. Now you might be thinking to yourself, does it apply the same way for the perfect fifth and then raising it up like the sharp 4? Yes, it does. So if we go play that fifth, raise it up, that would be considered a sharp 5 as well. Remember, As long as you have the right context, if you're starting on a note, go flat, then you might want to call that a flat. If you're in like a sharp key, then you play a note, you might want to call it a sharp. It all depends on your context and how kind of nitpicky and kind the people that you are talking to are about the subject. So, it just to put it out there because it happens. Some people are really, really finicky when it comes to these things. So, just so that you know. Now, let's continue. So, we have our major sixth, minor sixth. Now, if we go up to our major 7, we also have our minor 7, which would also be a sharp 6th. I haven't really heard it called that, but anyway, you could still argue that, and you could argue most of the stuff as long as you're appealing to the Christian worldview from a correct basis, where the law of induction matters. The future will be like the past because God is in control of everything. But yeah, now let's keep going. So we had our major 9. Now we have our flat 9, or we can think about it as a minor 9, of course. Then 10th, a flat 10th, our 11th, our sharp 11th, or you could think about it as an augmented 11th to be fancy, our 12th, 12th of the flat, or 12th with a sharp. People usually just call that like a flat 13th. There's our 13th. There's that flat 13th again. 13th. And we'll call that a sharp 13th. Cool. So those are our minor notes in reference to our major notes. So now I'll just play the minor notes and their harmonies as we go right now. Very cool. Now I did take out the perfect fourths and perfect fifths, so I'm going to do it again, this time with our perfect fourths and perfect fifths. Very cool. Now, you might have noticed when we were playing those notes, um, maybe you noticed. If not, that's totally cool. We actually get a nice little God-given Easter egg right here, being the blues kind of scale. And it would be like adding this, right? It's actually really, really cool, and I've never seen that before. But anyway, that is super awesome. We have our major harmony. We have our minor harmony. The minor harmony there again was a major second, a minor second, a minor third, and I added the perfect fourth. Then minor fifth or sharp fourth, but for our purposes now, minor five, minor sixth, minor seventh, minor second, minor third, minor ninth, minor 10th, a sharp 11 or a flat 12th, and a flat 13th. And I'll play it one more time just because it sounds really cool. Awesome. Now, you can practice this on your own in multiple keys. Just remember, whatever you do is start from that key's major scale and then start inputting what kind of harmonies you would like. If you want the major harmonies, if you want the minor harmonies, and so on. If we put all of those things together, all of those major and minor harmonies, we get this scale. Cool, and I'm tempted to talk a lot about this, but if you'd like to explore a little bit more about that scale, being the chromatic scale, which we all know now. The thing is, there's somebody that I respect a lot. I don't know if he's still with us, but brilliant mind, definitely a gift from God to the musical community and abroad, in my opinion, being Barry Harris. With the theory of where music comes from, if I'm to I guess talk about it in a way where I'm being as succinct as possible, it would be that the 12-tone scale is God. And when God created, he created man and woman. If we start with the 12-tone scale, and then we separate them and have a man and a woman, those would be the two whole tone scales, where we have just whole steps. And then they get together and have offspring. That gives us our diminished chords, and then they have offspring, and it keeps on going till we get this C major. I think it's actually called the C diminished sixth scale. And yeah, I really watered that down so much by in contrast to what he is explaining, but hopefully that's helpful for you to understand. Now, that is his theory of music, and I actually think that is closest to the truth because we're all God's creatures and we're all made by him. In the scriptures, it actually says that God made everything, is the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Specifically, in the letters to the church, is Jesus had made everything. And so if we think about that and not get too complicated, is everything was made by him, through him, and for him. And so if we start with God in our thinking, then we can actually come down to the truth. If we don't, we're reduced to absurdity. And that's a little serious, but, and I'm trying to keep this lighthearted, but this is a really, really cool thing that we get to do in regard to harmony, in regard to manipulating scales. And in the next lesson, Lord willing, when I see you there, we'll be discussing on combining multiple harmonies. So we're not just using 2 voices, but 3, and the different types of harmonies that we have. I know this one was a little long, but thank you for bearing with me. And yeah, God bless you, and Lord willing, I will see you in the next lesson.